Live Commander Replay. Arcades the Strategist looks to build some walls. And best of all, Mexico doesn't have to pay for them. Welcome back, everyone. Playing some Arcades the Strategist. Gonna build some walls today. Let's take a look at our opening hand. We've got 3 lands. 3 lands is good. Little bit slow, no acceleration. We do have, well, Garrick is sort of acceleration, but as long as it survives when it untaps. I do have an aggro deck out there. I think this is reasonable enough. We have 1 creature with Defender, which can draw us into an additional card. We've also got some Scries, actually. We have 2 Temples, so okay. I think this will work. So as I mentioned, we're playing Arcades the Strategist, 1 green, white, blue for a 3/5 Flying Vigilance. Whenever a creature with Defender enters the battlefield under your control, draw a card. Each creature you control with Defender assigns combat damage equal to its toughness rather than its power and can attack as though it didn't have Defender. So Arcades is the wall commander, and what's actually really fun about this is I've seen people running the old Arcades Sabbath using kind of the same framework of a deck built entirely around walls, except that you had to rely on, what's that card?
Assault
Formation.
You had to rely on things like
Assault
Formation.
and Rolling Stones to be able to attack with your walls. Just much better having all of those abilities that you want on your commander, being able to cast it from the command zone. So pretty sweet right there. We draw an Axebane Guardian that will be useful. Our mana's a bit awkward. We're going to go with the Temple right here. We get the Scry one. Ooh, that's a Meek Stone on top of our deck. Meek Stone is so good. I think we keep the Meek Stone on top. Even though I really want a 4th land right there, I think Meek Stone is where we want to be. So my computer just spazzed out for a second, but Zozu the Punisher laid down a turn 1
Soul Ring
followed by an Ankh of Mishra. So as soon as Zozu gets down, that's going to be 4 life per land. That's a lot. And the Sliver Hivelord opponent laid down a Cryptolith Rite on their 2nd turn. And Akri Lineslinger coming into play on the 2nd turn for the Boros opponent. So right here we will go with the Temple of Enlightenment. Whew! Get the Ankh of Mishra trigger started. We're going to auto that. And then we will scry with the Temple, hoping to find another land. Boots are going to have to go to the bottom, unfortunately. Don't want to run the Meek Stone out there just yet. I think that's I think it's a better surprise tactic more than it's anything once people have attacked with something. If they can prepare for it, they will play significantly different than if they've already attacked. So I think that's where you get the most value out of Meek Stone. I would really like to draw into an untapped land this turn. Land count's a teeny bit low in this deck at 36. I typically like to go a little bit higher, but this deck does have a pretty low mana curve. I actually started with Jolt 539's deck list and slowly kind of converted it over to a more multiplayer-focused deck, so the curve is just a little bit higher than what his was. Since you'll have more mana and the game will typically go a bit longer, but it still has a lot of the same basic framework to it. I'm actually running the same combo that he has, because again, I used his deck list. So, Wall of Kelp with Intruder Alarm and Axebane Guardian essentially allows you to make a crap ton of 0/1 tokens and draw through your deck, basically. And we do have Craterhoof Behemoth at the top that we can get to. So, fun little combo if we're able to get that online. We'll see what happens. Ooh, and Sliver Hivelord looks like they're actually playing a Sliver deck, so that'll be fun. Haven't seen too many Sliver decks lately. Leonin Abunis coming down for the Boros opponent. That's a card that I like a lot, and I do include in my Aurelia equipment decks. Really nice when you gotta protect your artifacts. Akiri Lineslinger gonna swing at the Zozu opponent. That is one good thing with having Zozu on there. Zozu having a bunch of punishing effects, they'll probably take a bit more of the early game focus than anyone else at the table, so that'll be good. We do not draw that on tapped land I was hoping for, but we'll lay down the Hinterland Harbor, which will come in tapped. But we still get to make a play, so I'm excited about that. We're going to lay down this Vine Trellis, and next turn we'll be online to cast our commander, which I like. But would still like to draw into some more lands. Dwarven Miner coming down. Pay 3, destroy target non-basic land. That seems really good. Maybe not in the early game, but in the late game, you got a lot of extra mana sitting around. That seems pretty good. Also, occasionally there's like an Amaria or a Maze of Ith or something that needs to get blown up. Yeah. So Zozu got some stuff going, has a Burnished Heart in play, has the Dwarven Miner they just played, and played Aki Blizzard Herder. When it dies, each player sacrifices a land. Ooh. Ooh. That's no good. This Zozu deck got a lot of tricks. I mean, I have to imagine that thing is just going to look like the biggest blocker imaginable, because no one wants that thing to die, so. Ooh, so the Akiri opponent lays down a Sword of Fire and Ice, attacks into the Zozu opponent, and then uses the Fire and Ice trigger to take down the Dwarven Miner. That's pretty nasty. So Akiri Lineslinger up to a 5/5. Pro-red, pro-blue means that Arcades won't be a valid blocker, which is unfortunate. Luckily, for the time being, our creatures are still out of the burn range of Sword of Fire and Ice, so that's still good news. Also, Root Sliver in play for the Sliver Hivelord. Makes it so Slivers can't be countered. Zozu opponent's going to sacrifice their Burnish Heart, go find some lands. Gonna be paying some life for those lands. Goes down to 27. Opponent's gonna swing the 1/1 at the Akri opponent. Personally, I would have just left it back on defense. It'll still probably keep the Slivers from wanting to swing in there. Oh, opponent blocks, so we're all gonna be sacking a land. Ew. So the Aki Blizzard Herder dies, and everyone's got to sack a land. Our land count is down to 2. We are still able to cast our Axebane Guardian this turn. I would really like to draw into a land, if not 2. So our opponents, by the way, first up we're facing a Zozu the Punisher, 1 red for a 2/2. Whenever land enters the battlefield, Zozu deals 2 damage to that land's controller, essentially Ankh of Mishra on a creature from your command zone. And it looks like they are playing the Punisher style of deck with Ankh of Mishra and some other things that destroy lands, so that's fun. Next up, we have a Sliver Hivelord opponent, is white, blue, black, red, green for a 5/5. Slivers you control are indestructible. Is pretty sweet, and it definitely looks like we're facing down a Sliver deck, so we'll need to be careful. Sliver decks, once they get rolling, can be pretty strong. Ooh, that's a Wheel of Fortune. We're going to lose a lot of cool stuff, but hopefully an opponent's going to Swords our Arcades. That's not the best. I'd like to draw into a couple lands and a couple walls. We draw into an Hour of Revelation. This is all kind of awkward. We do get some lands, but we lost a lot of really cool tricks and cards and things. We're a ways away from the Hour of Revelation, but we do have the white mana in hand to be able to cast it at some point. The one concern is that once the Sliver Hivelord comes down, Hour of Revelation is basically not going to touch any of their Slivers. It'll get rid of the Cryptolith Rites and the Sol Ring. The Boros opponent should get hit pretty hard by the Hour of Revelation, unless they hold up either Teferi's Protection or Boros Charm. Oh, our last opponent, by the way, Akri Lineslinger and Bruse Tarl, Boris Herder. This is a deck that we played on the channel before, and really it's just kind of an artifact Voltron deck. Play a bunch of artifacts, start hitting people really hard. And it looks like we're going to be the one that gets hit hard this turn. So Akri coming into us for 6. And they get a Sword of Fire and Ice trigger. Let's see where they point it. Probably at a Sliver. Make the most sense. And Shram Senior Edifice are coming down for the Boros opponent. As well as Umezawa's Jitte. Ooh, Mystic Gate. Mystic Gate turns on our... Are there enough permanents in play? I think there are. Wow, I'm really glad I put Mystic Gate in this deck. So, Mystic Gate turns on the ability to cast Hour of Revelation this turn, which is going to be a really good idea. Also, it's going to get rid of this Great Furnace. Yeah, I like this. This is going to be good. This is going to be really good. Ankh of Mishra, going to get us for 2 more. So, we're down to 31, by the way. It's probably not going to matter too much, but we'll tap out our creature for mana, since it's likely to be destroyed. Playing Hour of Revelation and nailing a whole bunch of permanents. So bringing everyone basically back to our level now. Because we were a land behind and then we lost the land when that one creature died. And now everyone has lost all of their early game advantage. And I think we've got ourselves a game at this point. Iron Mirror coming down for the Zozu opponent. I've been adding Hour of Revelation to all my decks and it's been so good. Being able to cast a Destroy All Non-Land Permanents board wipe, usually for white, is really powerful. I don't know if they had Commander in mind when they designed this card or if they were thinking more standard play, but man, it is so good in Commander. Because it basically allows you, especially if you're in like a 1 or 2 color deck, it basically allows you to sit and do nothing for like 3 or 4 turns while your opponents cast a bunch of stuff, and then you just blow it all up, and you've probably got most of your hand still intact. Really like what that card can do. You guys should totally pick them up. They're still very cheap. They'll be rotating out of standard very soon. I imagine that they'll dip down pretty cheap, especially right after rotation, but they'll probably start to increase a little bit over the next year or so. As the supply kind of dwindles down and Commander players start picking them up, especially because it was out of a small summer set, so gonna have a little bit less supply than the big fall set or the big spring set. So yeah, if you guys see Hour of Revelations available for trade, I would definitely pick some up. That's a Cultivate. Cultivate is extremely helpful. Play the Brushland. Play the Cultivate. This Cultivate is actually really good because now we can cast Arcades next turn and then cast the Overgrown Battlement with Arcades in play instead of casting the Overgrown Battlement to get to Arcades. So I kind of like this Cultivate a lot right here. We'll go for a white and a blue, I guess. Now we'll make it a white and a green. Why not? So get a land into play. And we'll leave up 1 mana like we're holding a Swords to Plowshares. Boros opponent on their last turn laid down a Leonin Shikari, by the way. Interesting creature. It's always like one of the last things that I cut whenever I build my equipment decks. There are so many creatures in red and white that interact with equipments favorably that it is hard to pare down to the exact number that you want. There's a Crucible of Worlds for the Zozu opponent. Also lays down a Gilded Lotus, so that's a pretty solid turn for them. Doesn't look like they have any fetch lands, but they did get a land back from their graveyard, so 3 visits for the Sliver opponent. Oh, the Hour of Revelation did not hit Great Furnace because it says non-land permanents, so the land half of Great Furnace prevents it from being destroyed. Not like Vandal Blast, which would blow up that Great Furnace. But either way, we got a ton of really important things away from the Boros opponent's hand. Ooh, that's a Sunforger. That Sunforger needs to go. Someone's got to get rid of that. It's a card that I know well. It ruins lives and it ends games. So there's that. Also, with the Shikari down, they can re-equip at instant speed, which is really nasty. Opponent's going to attack us again with Leonin Shikari. This is going to get us for a little bit more life, so that's not the best. So back to our turn, we draw a Tree of Perdition. And I think this turn it's just going to be cast Arcades the Strategist. Ooh, nice. So the Zozu opponent's going to strip mine the Emeria. Well, that should make a friend in the Boros opponent. Hopefully that'll shift their attention away. Ooh, no. So the Zozu opponent plays an Icefall. There's a card you don't see enough of. It takes down the Sunforger. Me and the Boros opponent were discussing the finer points of Sunforger. I was discussing how it ends games, and he said, that's your own deck, this is my own. Opponent, you're talking to a guy who has run the Gatherer search for every legal Sunforger target more times than you can imagine. That is a search that I've run so many times. And then the Zozu opponent says, yep, like we're idiots. The one Sunforger card, opponent trying to say Crucible Strip Mine is scarier than Sunforger. At this stage of the game, it's a little bit less scary. In the early game, it can definitely be super threatening. It can't take down utility lands like it's nobody's job, so luckily all of our lands just produce mana right now, so our lands probably won't be the target of Crucible of Worlds. But also, our deck is fairly mana efficient. Our converted mana cost is pretty low. There's very few things at like 6 and 7, and I think like 1 8-drop, so the top end of our deck, there's just very few cards in the top end of converted mana costs in our deck. Most of it's in the 2 through 4 range, and with a handful of things at 5. Stone Hewer Giant coming down. There's another probably should kill target. That one can also end games. Oh, that's Blackblade Reforged. Wow. Any creature they play will be massive. Who's got a Vandal Blast? We certainly do not. We do have an Austere Command in here. I would not mind seeing our Austere Command very, very soon. Opponent going to send the Leonin Shikari into the Zozu opponent. Nice. And that brings it back to our turn. We draw a Verdant Catacombs. Probably looking for a non-land right there, but what can you do? But the more importantly, we untap with our Arcades. I think I'm going to go Brago Overgrown Battlements and just wait on the Tree of Perdition. So Overgrown Battlements, play that first. We'll get to draw a card. It's an Ancient Tomb. Does that change anything for us? Not really. That will put us at 6 mana. Yeah, our hand's a little bit clunky for that. So I think we'll just play the Savannah right here. Continue to hold up mana like we have a Swords to Plowshares. Plowshares. Brago coming down. Let's do some attacking. Do we attack into all the open mana of the Sliver Hivelord? It's risky, but I guess we do. I don't want to go into the Boros opponent just yet. I'd like to secure my position just a little bit more before we start trying to take on the Boros player. Especially that Blackblade Reforged is going to make any creature they have just absolutely massive. They can double strike it with Sunhome. Opponent's going to play Complete Disregard on our Arcades the Strategist. There's one I'm not actually familiar with, but is exile target creature with power 3 or less, and it has Devoid, so a little bit annoying. Means that we will have to recast Arcades next turn to start doing stuff. If it were me, I would have just taken the 3, unless they're worried about us getting too far ahead. Oh, wow. Well, that's going to make things real weird. Keldon Firebombers. When it enters the battlefield, each player sacrifices all lands they control except for 3. Ooh. Well, this is going to be a rough game. That will power down the Blackblade Reforged quite a bit. We're going to keep the Temple because of Brago. We're going to keep this Filter Land because that'll do good things for us on limited mana. And then we'll keep the Savannah so that we have a green source. That's going to make Arcades 8 to recast. Ooh, man, that's so much. We can get the 6 mana this turn. Opponent's going to replay their Strip Mine and shoot down the Plateau of the Boros opponent. At this point, I might start to try to pile on the Boros opponent a little bit. There's Zozu coming into play. Oh, man. It's going to be rough. We have a lot of... We still have 3 lands in hand, so Zozu's going to be pretty rough on us. Sensei's Divining Top coming down for the Sliver opponent. I would go for one of those right now. He's going to use the Divining Top. Opponent got a land coming in. Sliver opponent gets hit with a Zozu trigger. Boros opponent going to swing into the Zozu opponent with the Stonehewer Giant. Going to use Stonehewer Giant's ability after declaring attackers. See what equipment they search up. Luxodon Warhammer would not be the worst thing I've ever seen. War and Peace would be really good. Feast and Famine would present an interesting dilemma for the Zozu opponent if they wanted to block or not. Argentum Armor would create a real problem next turn. Goes with the Hammer of Nazan. Seems like a good one. Will protect their creature, make it hard to get rid of, and also give free equips to additional equipments that they play. So solid choice right there. Zozu goes down to 17. We draw a land, not the most helpful. Yeah, so I guess this turn we play a land. Gonna wait on the Ancient Tomb. Oh god, Ancient Tomb's gonna be super painful with Zozu. So we get hit with the Zozu trigger for playing a land. Need to find the life. I think there's one life gain card in this deck. I'll play Tree of Redemption. Tree of Redemption will give us some interesting options, being that our life total is dwindling down pretty rapidly due to Zozu and other Punisher effects also being attacked by our opponent. We can scry one time with Brago if we attack. So I'm going to attack into the Boros opponent for 2 with Brago just so we can bounce our temple. Would like to be seeing non-lands at this point. So we get a Brago trigger. Oh, it's non-land permanents. Well, that does a lot of nothing. We'll just bounce the Tree of Perdition. Forgot that it was non-land permanents. I don't play Brago. Like, I've actually never played Brago. I have never once built a Brago deck, so that's what happens when you don't read the cards. I've faced it many, many times, but so that made keeping our temple, well, I guess it didn't hurt us in any way, but was hoping to get some value out of bouncing that temple. Ooh, opponent's going to hit us with a strip mine. Oh, that's not good. It's going to make it really hard to get Arcades back into play. That being the case, we're probably just going to have to go after Zozu now. Wake of Destruction. Destroy target land and all other lands with the same name as that land. Chooses plains. We don't have any plains. Never seen that card before. New one on me. But 6 mana to destroy 1 land. Not the most efficient rate. We would need to catch Soul Ring or Mana Crypt off the top if we wanted to be able to recast Arcades this turn. Chances of doing so, not super great. About 2 in 73. Card that actually would be pretty good for us would be Revelark. That would get back our Mnemonic Wall and our Axebane Guardian. And then we could get back our Revelation. That'd be cool. Gemide Sliver coming into play for the Sliver opponent. Boros opponent plays a land, gets hit with a Zozu trigger. Stonehewer Giant gonna swing back into the Zozu. Gonna equip the Stonehewer Giant. Let's see what he goes for this time. If you have Argentum Armor, this is probably where you start going for Argentum Armor or whatever your really big equipments are. Goes for Feast and Famine. Opponent will have a choice of whether they should block or not. Feast and Famine will only untap 1 land, so they won't be getting tons of value out of it, but that mana is relevant, and it'll also make Zozu discard a card, which is, I'm not sure if they want to be doing that, so let's see if they throw something in front. Yep, gonna block with the Keldon Firebombers. The Keldon Firebombers already did their work, so now just gonna be cashed in as a chump blocker. Yeah, a little bad blood between our opponents with the land destruction and whatnot. Opponent gets an Icefall recover trigger, but does not have the mana. Get that back. And that is the problem with the recover mechanic. It's really hard to anticipate when you're going to need that mana open. Brings it back to our turn. Ooh, we draw another land. Really wish we could have scryed with that temple. We'd be on 7 mana if we play the Ancient Tomb. I feel like we need a shuffle right here. Drawing a lot of lands. There's Zozu. Oh, yeah. Verdant Catacombs. We're going to wait to crack that Verdant Catacombs because we're going to be losing a lot of life to do that. And there's a reasonable chance that Zozu may not be in the game that much longer. We'll try to preserve our life total a little bit. Is it worth attacking the... is it worth attacking into the Boros opponent? No, I don't want to... I'm actually just going to sit put. We're not really in a position to make enemies, so as painful as that is for me, I'm just going to stay put for now. All we need to do is not get our stuff blown up, and we can get tricksy with Tree of Redemption. Zozu plays land, gets hit with one of their own triggers. Going to go after the Great Furnace of the Boros opponent. Really hitting them hard on the land destruction. Mine Layer. Put a mine counter on target land. When a land with a mine counter on it becomes tapped, destroy it. Whew. We do need to be careful with Ghostway and Tree of Redemption because we'll make our life total lower using Tree of Redemption. Currently, we could get 21 toughness on the Tree of Redemption, which we could get back later as long as we don't need to Ghostway. It's going to go bad if we both use Tree of Redemption and Ghostway. We're going to lose a lot of value right there. That's a Mana Echoes. That's a pretty good card. Luckily, opponents only got 3 cards in hand. They do have a Divining Top, so they can dig a little bit. Another land for the Boros opponent. They've been hitting all their land drops. That's been sort of light and shadow. That's actually very, very good. That life gain is super relevant, and they've got a handful of creatures in their graveyard, so that can generate a lot of value. So the Light and Shadow gets a free equip, and we actually, based on the swords that opponent has in play, we can't block currently. Oh, gonna swing into us. Well, with that being the case, use the old Tree. We go down to 13 on the Tree ability. Tree goes up to 21. Can't block based on the protection colors. We go all the way down to 3. Opponent's going to gain some life back. They're going to get a Sword of Light and Shadow trigger and a Sword of Feast and Famine trigger. We're going to discard the Adakar Waste right here. Our blue mana is good, and a Pain land is not where we want to be. We are in Lightning Bolt range. That's something we have to be careful of. That brings it back to our turn. We draw a Wall of Tanglecord. Oh man, we really need to get Arcades into play, which would require us to do the Ancient Tomb bit. Ooh, Wall of Tanglecord does give us the ability to block the Stone Hero Giant. That's good news. Man, we really, really need Arcades. If we get Arcades down, assuming that opponent doesn't have instant speed removal, we get Arcades down, we attack with Brago, we bounce one of the walls. Tree of Redemption we don't really want to mess with, but we can at least get an extra card draw. What about if we get Wall of Tanglecord down first, we would then get 3 mana, which means that Wall of Tanglecord would effectively cost 1 mana. Okay, I think we activate the tree right here, get some life back, crack this Verdant Catacombs. Let's get Tropical Island, take a Zozu trigger, play Ancient Tomb, take another Zozu trigger. Ooh, life total's getting low. Recast Arcades. Mana Echoes comes down. Whenever a creature enters battlefield, you may add... Okay, so that doesn't help us at all. Gonna hope opponent doesn't have something instant speed. Otherwise, we're in trouble. Hit opponent for 2. We get to bounce some stuff. So let's bounce our creatures, start drawing some cards. More Mana Echoes triggers. We draw a Panharmonicon. Good for card draw, but we need something a little more solid than that at the moment. There is a chance that we just die to the Stone Hero Giant. Based on the swords they have, we can't block. And part of me thought about laying down the Wall of Tanglecord, since it can block, but opponent's gonna strip mine the Battlefield Forge. Would have went for the command tower personally. Opponent's gonna float some mana, gonna put a mine counter on the command tower. Ooh, well, that should hopefully turn the Boros player's attention back to Zozu. Opponent gets Swiftfoot Boots. It's gonna make it really hard to deal with that Stone Hero Giant. The cards that I think we really need right now, Revelark gets back our Hour of Revelation like we talked about. Don't know if we have enough mana to do all that in one turn. Ooh, Zozu just scooped it up. That's bad. That's really bad. Oh, man. There's a chance we just die. I don't know how many equipments opponent has left in their deck. They've gone through quite a few. But if they can find 4 power somewhere, we are in trouble. That's a Slayer Stronghold. That's 2 power. Yep, swinging into us. Gotta hope that they don't have anything relevant left. Luxodon Warhammer, we survive at 1? I think we're going to survive at 1. Can't use Ancient Tomb. Opponent's going to hit us with the Feast and Famine. Well, since we're at 1, we'll get rid of the Misty. Get rid of the Misty. They're going to Light and Shadow, get something back. They're going to gain some life. They get the Isamaru, Hound of Khanda back. We draw a Worldly Tutor. Oh, that's interesting. That is very interesting. So if we could go Worldly Tutor, Revelark. Take a 6 mana. We'll start by playing our land. Play our land. Zozu's finally gone. Safe to play lands. So we'll need 9 mana total, and that'll get us Mnemonic Wall, which opponent does actually... Mnemonic Wall can block the Stone Hero Giant, which is very relevant. The other thing that we could do, we could also just go for, like, Tetsuko. How much damage? Opponent's at 42, so we're not really going to be able to erase opponent out right there. So I think Revelark is probably our best bet. Well, either way, I think we start with this Worldly Tutor. We'll see if there's any better options in our deck. Opponent doesn't have protection from blue currently. I doubt that they are running... Tetsuko gives us unblockable. Oh, Marble Titan. I think Marble Titan's the card we want. Opponent won't be able to untap. They can start moving equipments around. Ooh, it'll take them a lot of mana to do that. Yeah. Marble Titan? Yeah, Marble Titan. I like it. I do like the Revelark plan too, but it's just a little bit too slow for where we want to be right now. Use the Tree of Redemption. Getting some pseudo life gain with the tree. Play Panharmonicon. Attack like this. Brago hits. So we're going to bounce our 2 walls. Opponent's down to 37, gaining a lot of life. 2 Mana Echoes triggers. We're going to get to draw 4 cards with Arcades, so we're going to get a full grip right here. We draw a Wall of Denial, a couple lands, and a Marble Titan. Play the Marble Titan, and now big creatures won't be untapping. So we should be safe from the Stone Hero Giant for at least a minute. All right, we have a fighting chance. Our life total is still really low. But we have 2 walls in hand, which means we can draw up to 4 cards next turn. Even more with Ghostwave. If we Ghostwave, we can draw a lot of cards. But I'll probably want to try to hold on to that as protection more than anything. If for some reason we can get Hour of Revelation off and Ghostwave our own stuff, we'll be in very good shape. Telekinetic Sliver. Ooh, tap target permanent. The Sliver player is still at 28. That's a lot of high life totals amongst our opponents. Now, this deck with all the walls having high toughness, if Arcades is in play, we can actually punch out big damage pretty quickly, but still a little ways away from that. Ooh, Armory Automaton. Uh-oh, did we lose? Yeah. Yeah, coming into us. That's going to be it for us. Oh, man. Didn't think it was going to be an armory automaton. I would have suspected if they had, like, maybe Sword the Plowshares or something and just killed the Marble Titan. But, man, I thought we had at least one more turn. When we got hit with the Strip Mine that one time, that just set us so far back. It basically time-walked us for a turn almost. And we couldn't get Arcades down. So, having played this deck for a while, I played this deck probably about 4 times now, and I've been having trouble winning with it. I haven't actually won a game with it yet. I came close in one of them. But the problem that I'm seeing is that you rely so heavily on Arcades being in play that it's just really easy for opponents to use something to destroy it, and then you just don't have much of anything going on, and that's not great. And then you want Arcades to be in play when you cast your walls so that you're drawing more cards. And like I said, when that plan gets disrupted, things just fall apart really quickly. That is a Sliver Queen. Does that go infinite? Is that infinite with Mana Echoes? Probably about to find out. Yep, that is infinite. I think Sliver's probably going to get there. So I suppose even if we survive the turn with the Sliver Queen and the Mana Echoes coming down, things probably aren't looking great for us. Ooh, Cyclonic Rift. Yeah, so I think Sliver's going to get there. I'd have to go back and look at it. I think we were 1 mana short if we went Worldly Tutor, use Brago, flash the... Yeah, we wouldn't have had enough mana to Revel Arc and get Hour of Revelation down all in the same turn. I especially don't know if we had enough white mana to do that. So that would have been a 2-turn plan, which as of last turn we just didn't have. So that's unfortunate. So, wow, this is a 14-turn game. Now, it was a little weird because the lands got blown up numerous times. So it didn't feel like turn 14 where you have 10, 15 mana available. The highest we got at any point was 8 to 9 mana depending on the number of walls that we had in play. Opponents are kind of just chit-chatting right now. Eventually, I think the Boros player will scoop it up. So opponents say good game. Take a quick look at the deck list. So Arcades the Strategist. Here's a look at the deck. This deck needs something. I don't know what. I haven't been able to figure out how to win with it yet. I can't tell if I need more creatures, less creatures, more spells, if I just need to change the playstyle. It's a different playstyle because you really want your commander in play before you cast your creatures, so you're just relying so heavily on Arcades being in play. So I played it a couple of times. I've seen other people playing it a little bit, and once you destroy Arcades, they lose so much momentum. It's really hard to recover. And that's been the big fault with this deck. There are tools to protect yourself. They're tough in the early game. I mean, something like an Angelic Renewal may not be the worst idea. You just lay that down on turn 2, then your Arcades is protected. That might be very legit in this deck. I don't know. Like I said, it needs something. I've been having a lot of trouble with this deck. This was one of the better games that we played, and I would call this a very atypical game. Due to all of the land destruction. And also, 2 opponents having a bitter blood feud, really going at each other hard. You can't always count on that happening either, so yeah, I don't know. The deck needs something. Maybe you guys have some ideas. Maybe you guys have played around with it a little bit more than I have. In its current form, this deck isn't quite there yet. Because of the reliance on Arcades, I think this deck has just a little bit lower ceiling than a lot of commanders that we've played. It'll be great for a more casual style meta where things aren't blazing fast, and if people are playing fair decks just trying to attack with creatures, things like that, you'll be in pretty good shape. But for the Magic Online meta, which I consider the average game usually around like a semi-competitive level where the decks are pretty well tuned, they're not going to kill you on turn 3 necessarily, but you know, turn 6, turn 7, most players are usually looking to eliminate another player from the table around that time, if not everyone all at once. So in the Magic Online meta, you only get so much time to react. Usually by turn 6 or so, you better have some sort of interaction to slow down an opponent. Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, what ideas do you guys have to try to make this deck a little bit more resilient? Maybe the idea is just really going in hard on Intruder Alarm combo and making it just like a full-on combo deck as opposed to trying to actually attack with walls, but I'm not sure. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the video. As always, feel free to comment, like, or subscribe. Thank you for watching.